You're walking to church on a Sunday morning in 1692 when suddenly a young girl starts screaming your name, claiming your spirit attacked her in the night. Within hours, armed men drag you from your home. Your neighbors, people you've known for decades, watch in silence as you're chained and thrown into a filthy jail cell. No evidence, no witnesses, just the word of a child who says she saw your ghost. Tomorrow, you could be hanging from a rope, and your last words will be drowned out by a crowd cheering for your death. This wasn't a nightmare. This was everyday reality in Salem, Massachusetts, where children's accusations became death sentences and paranoia turned neighbors into executioners. In just 10 months, 20 innocent people were murdered by their own community in one of history's most terrifying examples of mass hysteria run completely wild. The most chilling part? It all started with a few bored teenage girls telling ghost stories. Salem in 1692 was a powder keg waiting to explode. The small Massachusetts colony lived under constant threat. King Philip's War had recently devastated the region. French and Indian raids terrorized frontier settlements, and Puritan leaders preached that Satan himself was targeting their godly community. Into this atmosphere of fear and religious extremism came the spark that would ignite tragedy. It began innocently enough in the household of Reverend Samuel Parris. His 9-year-old daughter Elizabeth and 11-year-old niece Abigail Williams started experiencing strange fits, screaming, throwing themselves on the floor, claiming invisible hands were pinching them. When local doctor William Griggs couldn't find a medical cause, he declared the girls were under an evil hand, bewitched by the devil himself. Under intense pressure from adults, the girls named their tormentors Tituba, Paris's Caribbean slave who had told them folk tales; Sarah Good, a homeless beggar who disturbed the community; and Sarah Osborne, an elderly woman who rarely attended church. These weren't random accusations. The girls had chosen society's most vulnerable members, people who couldn't fight back effectively. What happened next revealed the true horror of Salem's justice system. The accused women were arrested and subjected to public examinations designed not to determine guilt, but to extract confessions. The proceedings were theatrical nightmares, where the accusers would suddenly scream, claim invisible spirits were attacking them, or fall into convulsions whenever a defendant spoke. The packed courtroom treated these performances as irrefutable evidence of witchcraft. Tituba, terrified and possibly tortured, gave the authorities exactly what they wanted: a detailed confession describing a conspiracy of witches plotting to destroy Salem. She spoke of flying through the night, attending witch meetings, and serving the devil himself. Her testimony transformed local suspicions into proof of a vast supernatural conspiracy. The witch hunt exploded beyond anyone's control. The accusations spread like wildfire through the community. Within months, the jails overflowed with over 150 suspected witches, ranging from respected church members to 4-year-old children. No one was safe once accused. Social status, religious devotion, or previous good character meant nothing against the word of an accuser claiming divine inspiration. The trials followed a terrifying pattern. Spectral evidence, claims that the defendant's spirit had appeared to accusers in dreams or visions, was accepted as fact. Physical evidence was interpreted through superstition. Unusual birthmarks became devil's marks, and the inability to recite prayers perfectly under extreme stress proved guilt. The accused faced an impossible choice: confess to witchcraft and live with the shame, or maintain innocence and face execution. 20 people paid the ultimate price for Salem's madness. Bridget Bishop was the first to hang on June 10, 1692, condemned partly because she owned a tavern and wore colorful clothing that scandalized Puritan sensibilities. Sarah Good cursed her executioners from the gallows, declaring that God would give them blood to drink, a prophecy that haunted Salem when one of her judges died choking on his own blood years later. Perhaps most tragic was the fate of Giles Corey, an 80-year-old farmer who refused to enter a plea. Under English law, he couldn't be tried without pleading guilty or innocent, so authorities used pressing, placing heavy stones on his chest until he either entered a plea or died. For 2 days, Corey endured crushing agony, repeatedly saying only "more weight" when asked to confess. He died without giving his tormentors the satisfaction of a plea, becoming a symbol of defiance against injustice. The accusers weren't content with targeting society's outcasts. They began naming prominent citizens, including the wife of Governor William Phips. This overreach finally sparked backlash from colonial authorities, who realized the trials had spiraled completely out of control. When respected ministers and government officials faced accusations, it became clear that no one was safe from the hysteria. The psychological dynamics driving Salem revealed disturbing truths about human nature. The accusers, mostly young women in a society that offered them little power, suddenly found themselves the center of attention, with the ability to destroy adults who had previously controlled their lives. They may have started with genuine belief in their visions, but the intoxicating power of being believed and feared likely drove continued accusations. The community's response was equally revealing. Neighbors who had harbored resentments for years suddenly had a way to settle scores by simply crying "witch." Property disputes, religious disagreements, and personal grudges all found expression through accusations of devil worship. Salem became a place where your survival depended not on your innocence, but on your ability to avoid making enemies. The trials finally ended in 1693, when Governor Phips dissolved the special court after his own wife was accused. The accusers' power evaporated overnight once authorities withdrew their support. Many later recanted their testimonies, claiming they had been deluded or manipulated. The community slowly began the painful process of acknowledging the horror of what they had done. The aftermath was devastating. Families were destroyed, the community was permanently fractured, and the economic cost was staggering. More importantly, Salem had demonstrated how quickly fear could transform ordinary people into killers, how religious faith could be weaponized for personal gain, and how justice systems could become instruments of oppression rather than protection. The Salem Witch Trials stand as a terrifying reminder of what happens when fear overrides reason, when communities choose scapegoats over solutions, and when justice becomes secondary to the desire for someone to blame. The real horror wasn't supernatural, it was entirely human. Salem's tragedy offers crucial lessons for modern society. The same psychological forces that drove the witch trials, fear of the other, desire for simple explanations to complex problems, and the intoxicating power of righteous anger, still exist today. The methods may change, but the underlying human capacity for turning neighbors into enemies remains unchanged. What do you think drove Salem to such extremes? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more explorations of history's darkest chapters.